Hello and welcome back. Today I will be talking about mid-side audio processing, what it is, and how you might be able to use mid-side processing in some of your own musical endeavors. I'm here on the iZotope website. They have an excellent article on what is mid-side processing. You have a stereo signal. You have a left signal and you have a right signal. That makes up the stereo sound, right? Well, in mid-side, you take that stereo sound and you break it down into the component which is the part of the sound perceived as in the middle, and then the part of the sound that is perceived as the side. Think of the side as one thing. If it's not the middle, then it's something that exists at the side. Mid-side processing makes a signal sound wider by either reducing the level of the mid or increasing the level of the side with respect to the mid. That's all mid-side processing is, and now let's jump into how we can use it in our own musical endeavors. Today my audio examples will come from the Roland Alpha Juno-1. It is a synthesizer that produces mono audio signals. However, it has an onboard chorus section which turns those mono audio signals into a stereo widened signal. Just know that if I turn the chorus off, I will only get the mid component and the side component will be dead silent. Okay, I'm going to take the outputs of my synthesizer and plug them into the inputs. You can see by these arrows what's inputs and what's outputs. So input, here. And I'm going to take the output of the processor and plug them into here. With nothing plugged into the mid-side jacks, there's going to be no processing. You're just getting the left-right in, going straight to the left-right out. Let's take the mid out and plug it into an attenuator and bring it back to the mid input. So that way I can turn down the mid component of the sound. And in the same way I can take the side out and plug it into another attenuator and then back in. Let's hear it first when we reduce the side. Okay, let's this time do it with the mid turned down, and we should hear all of the side, what it sounds like. I can have an LFO achieve the same thing. Over here on my synthesizer box, I have a VCA. And the VCA can be controlled by an LFO. So let's take the mid out, plug that to my VCA in, and then the mid return coming from my VCA out. And then let's plug in an LFO to the VCA CV right here. Use a triangle waveform and see what happens. So you notice the signal in the middle is going crazy, wah wah wah, but the signal on the side is nothing going on yet. If my VCA is loud, I can turn that down here. Okay, so far I have the side running through my attenuator here, but it doesn't have to run through an attenuator. It could run through my SEM filter over here. So let's take the output to the filter input, and then the filter out. I'm going to use low pass back to the mid-side processor. I could turn down the mid, so what we're left with is the side, and you can see the sides going to the filter. That's the widened part of the sound, and the mid is in the middle. Now, my filter, I could send an envelope to that. It's I have an AR envelope here that I'm going to plug into its CV. I'm going to use a clock signal to gate that. I'll just use my Pittsburgh. Alright, let's see what that sounds like. So far, just the side processing through a filter. Now I can bring the mid back in. I could run my mid through the filter also of the synthesizer box. Let's do that. And then I could use the waveforms of my synth box. Let's use a square to trigger the envelope. Let's turn off the side so you can see what the mid is doing right now. I can use the ping mode on this thing. Now I can bring in the side component again. The sky is the limit for how you could separately process the mid and the side. You can take one stereo image sound, like a pad. I'm thinking about running my VP-03 Vocoder through this thing here in a minute. But you see, you can send any stereo signal through this thing, and you can split the mid and the side from it, and you can process the mid and side, and suddenly one sound, one pad, one chorused sound can become like two that can be processed individually. This time I'm going to leave the filters plugged in as I have before, the side going to the SEM and the mid going to my Pittsburgh box. But this time I want to use the clock divider so that the CVs going to both of the filters have some kind of rhythmic relationship. I like to use the oscillator from my Pittsburgh, because that way I can use a lot faster clock. So far, that's getting more interesting, but it's still a little bit boring. Plus, I have a pop sound going on there. What if I send the clock to my sample and hold, and the sample and hold, send the output of the sample and hold to the rotate of the clock divider. I can change the mode of my filter to notch. I can use the bandpass. Let's hear the VP-03 on this. I made a special cable for this endeavor, a stereo 1/8 inch to mono 1/8 inch. But no one you know has one of these. I made it special. I had to sacrifice one of my cables to do it.